All right. Okay. Little technical difficulty. All right. All right. What are y'all doing? Y'all goblin shit? Right? Jeweler TV. Peace. All right. Appreciate anyone that comes out here. I know I'll say a lot of inflammatory things about this particular holiday I hate the most. As of now, I'll probably be at a law school. Hopefully, maybe in the middle of December or something. But pretty much this whole year, once this COVID started, I haven't really been able to get a good amount of students in the classroom, so once the schools closed in New York City, the public schools, I followed suit. I just want students to be comfortable. I'm not worrying about how they'll be inside that school. I worry about the travels, and I don't want any unnecessary travel for people that are doing that. And the school is voluntarily done. It's always voluntary, open to walk-ins and all that kind of stuff. But type of people that have been walking in though haven't been the young. It has been the old of, not people trying to learn shit, just, old ass people doing nothing, All right, Gerald, peace of God. Whew. Half time. Peace. Okay, let's see if I can get. All right, let me know how it's been. Let me know how you all are selling out on this holy day. All right. Not at the school, and it has felt weird. This is the first time in 20 years that I haven't been at a law school on a Thanksgiving Thursday night. That's just been the way it's been. So it definitely feels weird, but now that we got this online stuff, we could add on and build and everything like that. Right now, I'm going to open my notes. It very rarely happens, though, but I think it's like the first time it happens. I write these Peace Course columns for you all at the 5percentmedia.com after the class, but I kind of have an idea of the kind of column I want to stress this week, just because I feel like it's an important idea. But that rarely happens where I have something in my head like this is what it's going to be. All right, so I'm typing that up now. Not the column, I'm typing up my notes for the class and stuff. I think I answered every email except the guy. I don't know if he's online, Quartis. I got this great email from you with a lot of great questions, and I did not get through to all that. You know what I mean? So I got to tackle that this weekend. You know what I mean? Even this online class today, I expected to be smaller and stuff like that because, you know, all y'all, damn, y'all are selling out on me and you know, not doing your thing, you know. And I'm just kidding, but there's a lot of videos of me years ago, me building at the school about Thanksgiving. It's a holiday that I abhor. It is one that is based on immediate history. And personally, the major goal for me, because, you know, my class, I didn't pick it to be Thursday, so that way I could always, you know, give a FU to Thanksgiving. But the main thing that I've always done, because this history is important, you have to take a stand on history at some point. At some point in time, everyone has to find some type of history absolutely important. And for me, as a young man growing, you know, becoming a man, this is where I started. You know, this is Thanksgiving is where I started to cause all hell with my family. You know what I mean? And it wasn't those things where, um, you know, where I was just like trying to change the way everybody behaved. It was more about making sure that everybody else, poor, yeah, hey, sometimes you gotta use a different word. You know what I mean? These are all documented. By the way, you know, if I say something that you don't know what it means, you can ask me if you get lazy on the Googles. But that's okay too. You know what I mean? Abhor. Spelled it right though. You know what I mean? You could have spelled it, you know, yeah. What if you spelled it like this? You know, abhor, and you're thinking like, why is Sunnis talking about the abdominals of sluts? You know what I mean? But the the thing is that like different way when I was young, different ways of life were what I was thinking. Just do the analysis, right? When you become radicalized, it could lead you to getting a knowledge of self as I did, because you could get radicalized to militancy. Let's say for me, the independence of Puerto Rico, and it becomes how far we're going to go to make other people do what we want, right? That becomes revolution. Like we want you to free us, free do this. So instead of taking conventional means, it becomes more intense. This ended up being not the type of revolution that I focused on. I went the road less traveled in this case of radicalization. I felt that it wasn't really about changing other people as far as getting the majority of my energy. Wasn't about changing other people. It actually was about what could I do to change myself that affects what other people can do to me. And so that, that became first, with diet, with diet. And I was sparked because certain foods, I immediately could not eat, right? A lot of people don't know that I didn't get rid of pork first, like most people. I got rid of dairy. So I stopped eating all dairy. But that wasn't the lifestyle that helped me become a greater athlete, right? Because I wasn't getting sick anymore. But then I started to realize that through the songs I was hearing, right? KRS-One's Beef, other songs, that the type of foods you may choose to eat also is a part of the statements you could make, right? Halftime, good question. What you just said, shouldn't that always be the motivation for KOS? Not always, though. It's not always the motivation for people to get KOS. It's good question. Most people, and I'm saying in my history, you could say it's anecdotal, meaning that, since we're saying anecdotal, right? Anecdotal, meaning my personal experience. When you say something's anecdotal, it's personal experience, But my anecdotal experience, it's 20 years, 20 plus years, right? I'm in my 21st year teaching. Most people come to get the knowledge of self. They don't even know it is the knowledge of self. It does start with self halftime, but what they're actually trying to get, though, is an answer to help their life get better. And the majority of people that come into a law school in Mecca are usually people, and like anything, you'll find this with anything, that they have tried other types of spiritualities and religions to save them and give them a focus and discipline to get the blessings that they so desire. And then when push comes to shove, then they try, last resort. You know what I mean? I can't tell you how many times someone has said, I went everywhere and it just wasn't working. I tried all of these other things and it just wasn't working. And so, you know what I'm saying? And so we tried this. So, it's not always a thing where like everybody, for all of you brothers and sisters that have knowledge of self and you're dealing with this and you say, listen, I am the God, I am the earth. It's a rare mentality. So even the percentage of people that go to inquire about knowledge of self and those who actually live out the knowledge of self is very low. The amount of people that actually know that they are actually getting a knowledge of self when they go into the school or speak with the gods is actually pretty low. They don't even know that they're getting a knowledge of self. You know what I mean? They don't even know that. You know what I mean? They're just thinking of something to help save them. You know what I'm saying? Something that might aid them. And maybe it's the knowledge. Maybe it's this information. Because I tried Rasta, I tried different churches, I tried all this other stuff, and then they try that. You know what I mean? But for me, the food that I ate was an important part of my radicalization. And that's why Thanksgiving, though, is important. Even though I hate Thanksgiving, it ends up being very important in my life. You know what I mean? Right? Because how could I rebel against a disingenuous celebration? And it gets flipped, right? Because, and you see this more, especially with African American culture. Latinos too, but Latinos have a way of making everything about Jesus Christ. So it even feels like Thanksgiving is thanking Jesus, So they have a way of making everything a damn, religious holiday. For some reason, it wasn't the pilgrims that came here. It was Jesus Christ. Like it feels that way. They make everything. It's all about Jesus Christ. You know what I mean? But people that flip the holiday make it into a thanking holiday. And I say that's still an abuse of history. You know, thanking and being grateful for things on false grounds. It's also being grateful for the colonization that you have survived. So technically, the thankfulness that you should have on a day like this still would be in a state of mourning, you know? And it's still very, it's still very clever. We have to be very careful about holidays like Thanksgiving because it's based on a history that is very recent. So I am more worried about the embrace of Thanksgiving than I am ever about Christmas. You know what I mean? Christmas is more devious. I can get into that if you all want to hear about that. You know, Christmas is more clever. You know, and how they use the children. You know, children save Christmas. You know, the babies. You know what I mean? And in many ways, though, the white man needed Christmas more than anybody else, though. Christmas saves the white American. It saves America. It saves a lot of stuff. You know? That's my call. I think that but I'll explain that in a little bit though, is that we're on this Thanksgiving shit. You know what I mean? But so I remember, and I don't want any of you to do this though, but the point of radicalization though was my childhood heroes obviously were hip hop MCs, and they were, it was pretty much KRS-One and Guru, you know what I mean? And nearly everything that KRS-One said I was studying, you know what I mean? And the KRS-One song Beef and other songs were in the back of my head, but they weren't in the foreground. It was always the idea of pork. And when I heard it was 1994, Common's second album came out, great album, right? Resurrection with I Used to Love Her and all that, but it had a song called Maintain. And on that album, he said, what type of rebel eats pork? And it's a question that stayed in my head mad long, you know what I'm saying? It's funny, 94, almost as long as like Sleep is the Cousin of Death, like just thinking about lines, because there were so many lines and stuff, you know what I mean? But and I'm getting into the holidays because I think there's I'm teaching here, so it's really for the next holidays that come and the next Thanksgiving, but definitely Christmas. I get you all ahead of time though. Is Jeweler over here is getting ready to throw down and go Kris Kringle on that ass. But don't be disrespectful to any of your elders, especially your parents and stuff. And I'm saying that as one who doesn't have his old earth anymore. And I remember one of the most definitive moments in my life, though, was my old earth served me some pork on a plate. Everything else was good to go, but that pork was juicing all over my other food. And I said, I can't eat it. She said, push it aside, take it off. And I was like, no, it's been affected. And I was like, you know what? I got to take a stand. And for some reason, I was making the most definitive stand at that moment. And I threw the whole plate off the thing, all that hard work. I just tossed it off the table, man. You know what I mean? And I never ate pork again, man. You know what I mean? Never ate the pork again, though. And of course, I spent the rest of my old earth's life always hugging her and apologizing for being such an ass about that. You know what I mean? And she understood. She didn't hold a grudge about that shit. You know what I mean? Because it became a funny thing. You know what I'm saying? But all the Thanksgivings that I had after that, I stopped eating anyway. So the next year, 95, right? So 93, I don't eat dairy. No more dairy. 94, I really didn't eat pork like that, but like that ham and shit like that would pop up. And I don't know if I ate pork in 94, because I don't know. So I say officially on that November of 94, Nobody have time. Nobody's more forgiving than a mother. You know what I mean? But nobody get, you know. Although I would hope that a father would. You know what I mean? I would like to think that as a father I am. You know what I mean? Sometimes, we elevate the humanity of our mothers at the expense of the fathers, though. You know what I mean? So I don't want to say that's true. You know what I mean? But see, once I got rid of pork, that was a statement. What type of rebel eats pork? And I saw myself as a revolutionary. I saw myself as someone that was learning about the country that his parents came from, and that it's a colony, that it is oppressed, and that he is dealing with oppression. Like, I'm putting my micro reality in its micro context more and more. So this is what's causing all this. But then after a while, it becomes a health thing. So it became a radicalization, became a health thing. There's more knowledge. So by 1996, I did all of the rest of the meats. And that's how long I've been vegan. But the militancy of Thanksgiving carries over into 1995, because every single Thanksgiving from 1995 through obviously today, I have not eaten. I'll never eat on this day ever. You know what I mean? And that's just been what I do. You know what I mean? And for us, it should be some, but it should be easy. But because it seems difficult to family, or it seems difficult to other people, it makes a statement and stuff on this particular day. You know what I mean? But it's nothing. You know what I'm saying? Everybody always has this thing about, I don't celebrate, or I don't have fun with my family. I don't get to see my family and things like that. Enjoy your family. You know what I'm saying? But you have to learn how to peacefully bring your culture and your way of life with you, not to spread it around, but to stamp your identity that, listen, this is the way I live. You know what I mean? Just like if you don't drink, you would have the fortitude to say, listen, I don't drink. That's not my culture, right? And no matter what, though, like, if you can't do that, you're not gonna have, much success in things. You know what I mean? You're not gonna have much success in things. You have to take a stand on certain aspects, certain levels. So it's important. But so at least, though, the traditions of not eating anything and always have some, and then what became recently, always having some indigenous low polo. You know what I mean? Right? But that becomes the culture. Let me see. I missed some comments here. Let me see what happened here. Beef, yeah, beef. What a relief, right? What this poisonous product cease? Acid alkaline food guide. I think I do have that. Haven't read it though. Okay, you're welcome, Real Hip Hop. All right, you're welcome. All right, Malik, peace, God. Saladin, peace, God. Haven't seen a question from you, Saladin, in a while. I don't know. You know everything already? All right, Universal VII. I don't know. Universal 7. Oh, okay, you Roman numeral that? How dare you bastardize appropriate the good old Roman numerals. All right. Definitely peace. Appreciate y'all in here. You know what I mean? And, I don't want to waste anybody's time though, because even still, if you're with family members that you don't know and everything, I want to give you all something useful to think about. But also, a lot of the stuff I'm talking about though is, how do you live your lifestyle? You know what I mean? How do you bring your lifestyle to other people and stuff like that? How do you actually propose it? And remember, the first rule of teaching is to be able to show people civilization. And there are other answers besides this. You know what I'm saying? Like, how much it hurts a Christian to just tell them, like, not everybody Christian. And people just think that people are actually in limbo, like they're just not existing with it, if they don't deal with Christianity. So what happens is you can tell them like a viable culture that has ways of designating how you will live that are based on your solid decisions, and you don't need to deal with no mystery God. You know, that's peace, Ron. Appreciate that. You know, don't tell me you're thankful for me. Not on this day. Let's skip all that Thanksgiving shit, right? I don't want to do the holiday at all, but I am thankful for everybody here, though. You know what I mean? But that's always the case, right? That's always the case. The Now Christmas, though. Let's look at the contrast. There's Christmas and stuff, right? Christmas is a very interesting holiday because Saturnalia, look these words up. Saturnalia are the traditions that develop out of the misappropriation, the confusion, all of this kind of stuff that happens in the European world, from the Greeks into the Romans. There's a diffusion of information from the original root that they're from, which is Egypt, that transfers down to be more and more confused as we go along. And the confusion leads into a culture where the entire month of December is one of intense savagery and filled with traditions that are based on total confusion, but also their desires and what they want. So they become very real because they're based on the general European desires. For example, when you look at the best example, right? Because I think one of the things that's important, side note into this point, one of the most important things that I think everyone should get into is, if we created this whole universe, stop looking at just the universe as the social reality, as the way that you're dealing with other men, women, and children in society, and then dealing with the economy and all these things. Try to learn more about animals. And I don't mean animals that are around you, pets, things like that, those type of animals. I mean the wild. Learn about the history of animals. Study the history of nature. Study the science of trees. All of these things, your earth science, the more stronger you are, then you become more familiar with the home that you're in. And you start to realize that this is all what we made. You know what I mean? The reason I say this is because one of the most important aspects of Christmas or traditions is the Christmas tree. You know what I mean? And nothing is more European in nature. See, that's the thing, like people want to dismiss Christmas, and it's hard for people to get off Christmas because the reason people get militant, are very anti-holiday, is because the holiday ends up being embedded with traditions that actually fortify European and westernized mentalities that are not right and exact. Okay? One of the most major ones, though, is the Christmas tree. You know what I mean? It looks beautiful. Because I grew up 85, right? My parents, they couldn't afford. I didn't get toys until my born day and Christmas. And my born day is days before Christmas, is right on the solstice, the 21st. So everything's packed into that time, right? So they made the end of that year like a big thing, and it was beautiful memories and stuff. You know what I mean? The traditions that your families end up creating become embedded into the historical westernized incorrect thinking traditions, or producers of incorrect thought traditions, meaning the wonderful things that they create, they create, and your parents make, become, for example, put onto that Christmas tree. Like, the most famous ornament I can ever remember is making an ornament of, a macaroni embedded ornament. You color the macaroni. Oh shit! You color the macaroni, and you put that macaroni on the circle, and then you put your picture in there, your school picture, and you give it to your older. You still have that. You know what I'm saying? From like second grade. You know what I mean? So they become memories that become embedded in you. So what happens is they end up fortifying the good feeling that comes from a holiday that is actually fortifying, though, a tradition that is quite heinous. You see? But these are religious rituals, though, that were never passed down overtly, right? So they always go that the Christmas tree represents Jesus, and because you have the nativity in the bottom. But that nativity was added later to give it some Christian meaning, because people weren't really dealing with, give it like some new Christian meaning, because it's not really meaningful. But the actual Christmas tree was symbolic of capturing nature. And that's why the evergreen tree, the tree that doesn't die, a tree that continues to live and all year round, they chop it up, they bring it inside, and they hold that nature. And that's why I like certain words like Yuletide, right? Yuletide, if you do your research, right? Like, let me just find the technical definition of Yuletide. Okay, Yuletide, right? Of course, Yuletide begins on my born date. It's December 21st, because it's about, and it's just defined as an archaic term for Christmas. Wikipedia will give you a little history. I doubt that, I've never read the Wikipedia history, but they're just going to talk about different feasts and everything, right? See if they put I've never looked in the Wikipedia one, but the Oxford Dictionary, Etymology Dictionary, gives a very, very intriguing definition. Yeah, they see a lot of etymology, they hide a lot of truth, because they'll tell you the history of a word, but they won't tell you the original meaning of the word. And there's the problem. You know what I mean? So they'll add in, like in Wikipedia, the etymology, the history of the study, the history and the study of the origins of words and their meanings as they develop, right? Easiest example, the word nigga, how it keeps changing over time and adds new meanings to it, changes new meanings, right? So the etymology here, they try to suggest that it's from the Old French jollif, which was borrowed into English as jolly, and because one of the roots of Yule is feast, right? It's feast. And I'll get to your questions, Malik, and everybody else, right? I just want to get to, and Saladin, I saw your question. The word Yule, the word tide means season, right? The word Yule, according to the Oxford Etymology Dictionary, means heathen feast. Okay? Feast, we know what a feast is. Heathen means what? It means savage, right? What is the symbolism of the Yuletide? If you remember the old school, when you'd see the, it usually used to be, Channel 11, they would just play Christmas carols, and they wouldn't show anything on TV. They would just have like a fireplace and showing Yule, because it also represented the trees. And the whole idea of the heathen feast was the celebration of capturing nature. And it became a thing of capturing, not being in tune, becoming more in tune with nature, right? So that's what happened. Is everybody hearing me? I see I didn't mute anything. So is everybody hearing me right? Let me know if you're hearing me, because everything seems to be working. Right. Definitely important. Like, yeah. Let me know if you can hear me. Right. Good. Okay. I thought I was muted. Halftime wrote muted. I don't know if you were referring to what we're talking about. So peace, peace. Appreciate that. So when we look at these seasons, right, we have to look at like how can we capture, we can show the power and influence of these seasons and say, listen, the power of tradition is that if your child, like I have children that, you know, basically their mothers aren't, you know, their mothers are not my earth, and I don't consider them their earth because they're not mine. So they're just pretty much 85, right? Meaning they're not doing all that God would do during this time. You know what I mean? Might be halftime. You know what I mean? Because everybody's hearing me loud and clear. You know what I mean? So the thing is, they could be surrounded by things, whether they parent correctly, like as you will, but they would be surrounded by things that you wouldn't be there for. So what happens is whenever you're with your children during these times, you don't want to take away the fun that other kids would have with Christmas. In fact, don't be afraid to embrace and show them all the culture, but show it through the lenses, different lenses all the time, you know? And the thing is, like, when you're raising children, though, you don't, like, for example, when they're really young, though, you teach them that we celebrate different things. Like for me, and just like if you study ancient, you know, ancient Kemet and others, the way they designed their calendar, the end of this year, the last week of the year was supposed to be a rejuvenation period. And that's why it fits so well as the end of the year, that last week of year, where it feels like people are rejuvenating themselves and revving up for that new year, right? Well, this is something that is logical. And at the same time, we can adhere to some of that. We can use some of that, right? Because we're still using this calendar. We're still mastering the calendar, right? And I would say this, right? That's peace, right? And I would say this, right? When you're trying to show how certain holidays or anything is not right and exact, right? It doesn't suit well to show the children how you are battling all of the most fun aspects of that holiday. That doesn't make sense to them. Like here he is mad about these fun things. So you see how it doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? So it's like you got to show them certain things. You got to teach them, now, listen, we're going to have fun with this because they were designed to pitch this towards you. We're going to know that some of this isn't real. Some of this is something for you to realize that they're just doing this on purpose. And you got to let your children know that not everything that is given to them that is good is designed for their goodwill, and put those in there slowly but surely. You know what I mean? And as they get older, they'll start realizing, you know what I mean? So even as they engage with other family members, and even if they enjoy certain aspects, they'll know the real truth of it. So when they make their own traditions, it'll be based on more truth, you know? And again, it's about giving them the decision to do certain things, as opposed to just saying like the right and exact culture is to do this. You know what I mean? Because then you do something with your children that you didn't want done to you. You want to make this decision yourself. So you got to put them in a position to make a decision. The only difference is that we're giving them more information than they ever would have gotten from anyone else. So they hopefully would appreciate that you give them a greater definition, a greater possibility to make a decision. Also, too, right? Let me finish that whole thing of Saturnalia. Because of this Saturnalia, though, the white man was just savage and buck wild for the last month. So by the time these old pilgrims came to America, the lowest form of Europeans, the exiled Europeans, the no longer wanted Europeans, and established the United States slowly but surely, they're still celebrating Saturnalia, which basically was a month of pillage. It basically was the purge. They would do whatever they wanted to in the name of that. You know what I mean? raping, stealing, binging, drunkardness, whatever it was, right? And a lot of the lawmakers, people that were running the show, realized, as anyone that would be running the show, was like, this newly founded settlement isn't going to last if everything gets torn down into straight chaos at the end of every year in the name of what it'll be, right? So all of the religion and stuff wasn't really working. Birth of Jesus, none of that shit was working. What started to work is to focus it on the children and to begin to give them candies, right? And if you're Latino, like if you're Puerto Rican and stuff like that, you know that like they didn't even, a lot of the old Puerto Ricans, older generations of Puerto Ricans, they didn't even get like no Christmas Day gifts and that like that. They didn't do that. They do the Three Kings Day. And if you talk to a lot of Puerto Ricans that are older, like, you know, and of course poor, they only got candy. They didn't get anything else. And this was a tradition that was started first. So how could they continue to have it, right? How could they continue to focus this and get it away from the savagery that was going on during that whole December month, right? And could destroy the entire settlement that would become the 13 colonies, that would become the United States, and so on and so forth. The continuation of propaganda. A major leap forward, though, was the making of Santa Claus as a story that caught on for the children. So now it became centered for the children. The children save everything. Because now when you focus on the children, you focus on what? Doesn't matter what children they are. Black, brown, yellow, white. You're focusing on continued life. And you can't bring death around no children and think that you could have children continue on. And so, just like anything else, this worked. You know what I mean? What happens is one of the major propaganda pieces of literature ended up being A Christmas Carol. A Christmas Carol becomes so big because it fortifies this idea that this time of season is a re-up of principles, a reckoning of principles. And it fits very much with Christianity, because Christianity doesn't give you a moment to absolve yourself, right? But if you really do the knowledge, it fits perfectly that they construct Christmas now, because during the birth of Jesus Christ, you may absolve yourself by gift giving to others. And that boosts the economy. You know what I mean? So it's genius. It's genius. And this idea of Scrooge being someone that has what? Been the ultimate capitalist, has collected and blood sucked all year, will have a day where he'll just give everything. And of course, though, the story can end on that day. You know, who's to say that, like, we know that in real life, all of the goodwill that's shared by Scrooge isn't going to continue into the next year. You know what I mean? But that's not the story, though. You know, he's a great guy. You know what I'm saying? Right? He's a great guy. You know what I mean? And the thing is, though, it's genius, Malik, but it's also inventions of necessity. You see? Inventions of necessity, right? Aristotle said that the ancient Egyptians, when they discovered mathematics, this is in his book Metaphysics, when the ancient Egyptians, he didn't say ancient because you're not ancient, when the Egyptians discovered mathematics, they went from the inventions of necessity, right, to the creations of leisure. That doesn't mean that they were just chilling and then, hey, check out this idea. It means that in leisure they could think and not necessarily be bound by just thinking of things to keep us alive and well, right? And so pyramids and all these other buildings, right? All these other things, because clearly, like, the pyramid is a creation of leisure. It outlasted the actual Commission dynasties. So they didn't need to make buildings that good. Technically, like they didn't really need to make the buildings that good. And they're still, they're still there. Right. So these are, that's the real genius, if we're looking at what real genius is, what I mean? A lot of the Christmas is really inventions and necessity that they tacked on, what I mean? And don't discount how Christmas is a way for the Christian nature to actually absolve oneself of sins, because Christianity doesn't give you an out for that. You know what I mean? You're always going to be a sinner and hoping that, it is what it is, right? Right? You did everything, right? So that's a more subtle aspect of that. I missed some comments here because I've been saying this whole Christmas thing, but that doesn't mean you don't enjoy the Christmas with the kids. If you have control of your whole household, that doesn't mean that you're going to get a damn tree in there just because you want to transition. They'll see things, but you could show them the cultures, you could show them the cartoons, and you could take them through it. Well, we don't celebrate this because of that. Like, the Christmas tree is one of the easiest way to explain to kids the folly of Christmas, because you're taking a tree that never would die and you kill it. I'm going to tell you, with my children, that has resonated greatly. You know what I mean? So even if, let's say, they may celebrate Christmas with their other parent or other relatives, they'll know that this isn't completely right and exact. And whatever legacy they have, they will be teaching that, onward. You know what I mean? So that's important. You know what I mean? It's important. And hopefully not be afraid to make a new tradition that can outlast the others, though. And embrace the traditions that, that should have been anyway, that should be anyway, right? If this is our calendar year and it's the end of the year, the children, they deserve some. They deserve some. Hell, especially a year like this, though, the babies deserve all the gifts that you could get them. All the gifts you can get them. You know what I mean? And there's very few joys greater than seeing children open up, toys and stuff. Oh, I love it. I love it. You know what I'm saying? I love it. Saladin, you said peace is. Have you heard about incarcerated black and brown incarcerated women being sterilized against their will? Well, the birth control pills that people take were first tested on Puerto Rican women in the 50s, and they nearly destroyed an entire generation of women in Puerto Rico with that. You know what I mean? So yes, there's a lot of research on that. Halftime said, because of that, I find it difficult to interact with some of my loved ones. Their passion for their faith often borders on disrespect. Yeah, try not to take it disrespectfully. You know what I'm saying? Because to them, you just have, at best, you have chosen a different spirituality, even though it's technically not what the hell we're doing. Because we didn't pick a different mystery god. You know what I mean? Like, hey, when we die, we're going over there, and you're going over here, and you're going to some funny heaven with clouds and chilling and have fun, and I don't know what the hell they're doing. It's Christian heaven. You know what I mean? And I'm going to be some cosmic being, and I don't know, right? But the truth is, they are taught that you might be some heathen. I was watching the Barack Obama interview with the Breakfast Club, and he had a real jewel though. With one word you could describe something. He said a lot of Latino voters. He said Hispanic though. I hate that word Hispanic though, unless it's beat nuts and the saying rhymes like his, crazy Hispanic, no need to panic. But he said that many Latinos voters voted for Trump, and this would go for Republican as well, because the evangelical presentation of Christianity is what adheres to them. Now, when you think about it, right? All these candidates are they're Christian to the bone. The Democrat, Republican. I mean, if there's one thing you could say, what we know for sure, for actual fact, is exactly the same, is the Christianity. You know, every president is a damn Christian. So there's no way around. That is the one thing you could say is absolutely the same, right? Now, the key word here is the evangelical. See? The evangelical presentation of Christianity means that the politician is presenting the false reality that all the decisions that they are making are Jesus Christo bound. You know, Jesucristo is doing this shit. You know what I mean? Jesucristo is the one who has sealed the delivery of all of this law that I am bringing forth. You know what I mean? And for that, though, they have then deified themselves as a what? You know, as an agent of Christ. You know what I mean? And the Democrats don't do that well. They actually do it badly compared to Republicans, even though they try to do it. You know what I mean? Because to me, you can't. They're all doing it, but no one does it as evangelically. You know, it goes to show you though the power of the mystery God, how it could be extended. What happens there, the evangelical presentation of Jesus Christ in a leader leading people as a politician, ends up extending the mystery God into that individual. And now their policies are an extension of the mystery God. Oh man. Oh man. Okay. So that's let's see. Yeah, it's how you engage with people. How would you engage with people? You have to always be thinking, you know, how you say these things, how you say those things, right? And continue to figure out a you know a way, you know what I mean? A way to, you know, to deal with your families and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Right? And that's difficult though, you know what I mean? We all have our button cues, you know what I'm saying? So like people could say all the religious stuff they want, though. It kind of goes over my head, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, yeah, you're wrong. It doesn't matter. I don't give a shit what you're saying. As long as my kids don't fucking listen to that dumb shit, you know, start believing that shit. You know what I mean? Then I'm good. I know that I've fortified the kids, and I know that I'm fortified. Me, as an example, personally, I'm more petty with the what I consider to be less fortified, and that is the palate of the child. You see, be concerned with the palate of the child. So when you see kids and you have your child and they say, oh man, they're getting all this dumb Christianity or they're getting all this religious stuff and they're enjoying Christmas cartoons. Oh man, it's fucking over. You know what I'm saying? I see it as more like, listen, I can actually handle them having a larger palate. It'll refine the palate that they have, right? It's where there's the points where the child has a destruction of the palate. You know what I'm saying? I'll give you examples, right? Give me a moment here because I just said something. I don't want to forget that. You don't want to see the destruction of the palate of the child. What is the palate? Okay. I'm trying to define this for you. But the technical definition is the range of colors used by a particular artist, the range of variety or tonal or instrumental color in a piece, right? But the palate, right, also counts as the roof of the mouth in humans, animals, right? So it means though, when we talk about palate, we're talking about the taste. And you want your child to be exposed to things so they could develop their palate. See, oh, this is the contrast. It might help with contrast. But you don't want the destruction of the palate. And that means that you're not going to help their palate by giving them pork, right? But on the other hand, you're not going to destroy their palate, though, if you guide them through certain things, like, let's say, I don't know, a Christmas cartoon, you see? Or having a meal in Thanksgiving, because if you educated them about the indigenous people and our history, and this is where we come from, and everything we'll do, they'll say things that we're thankful for, but we will put our thanks and all that kind of stuff though in reminding ourselves of the great indigenous ancestors that fought and prevailed, and our existence is proof of their prevailing. Actual fact, you know what I'm saying, right? So it's preventing the destruction of the palate. Like, for example, this is what I do, so I'm more petty with it. If I took my children to like a Christmas family holiday thing, I'd be more bothered by the type of music that was being played, and let's say shit music like Pitbull or something, destroying the palate of my children, as opposed to somebody with their religious beliefs, because I had instructed them so well that the things that they would hear from other people would sound so cockamamie and illogical that it only would serve to amplify the mental aspects, that the mental jewels that I've given their palate. You know what I mean? So their palate is refined enough. But certain things like food, you wouldn't want your kid trying all these foods just off the bat, because now to develop their palate, you don't want to destroy their palate. You know what I'm saying? Right? But hearing different views, though, actually is something that they'll be exposed to no matter what. So you have to learn how to develop their palate and not be worried about that. You know what I mean? And as you go along, though, hopefully the hardest work is actually the artistic palettes. You know what I'm saying? Getting them off, horrible music, all that kind of stuff, right? I know, this is me. This is what I do, right? But Saladin, another good question. What do you think of the Ptolemaic period? I don't think anything of the Ptolemaic period. No, the Ptolemaic period, though, is really the end of the Egyptian dynasties, right? So, yeah, I think it's depressing. That's what I think. You know what I mean? I hate it. I'm not. When I study, ancient history, though, it's one of the ones I don't enjoy studying because it's upsetting. It's also where Alexandria causes the confusion in today's time, because people, vicariously incorrectly think that Alexandria is Greece, and Alexandria is not Greece. It is Alexander the Great, right? Under the aforementioned Aristotle, that super evil cracker, putting it into his apprentice's head, in the ear of the ruler, Alexander the Great, that he needs to conquer all this. He conquers Egypt. Name that great library becomes Alexandria. So just horrid, But it is one to study, because that transfer, it's important to know how that was destroyed. I don't know off the head. I can't think of a particular book that is just about the Ptolemaic period that I would suggest. But so I go generally and throw you to Destruction of Black Civilization, right? Malik said, peace, Sunez. All right, peace. Since we're building on the holidays or holidays, how can we show and prove that Columbus was half original, or was it in how he was in thought? He's from Italy, so most likely he is half original, right? In that sense, right? Uh, in any of the degrees, though, it's not really important to prove their genetics, though. It's really in what they were teaching. You know what I'm saying? That he was, bringing devilishment. But for this, the half original isn't like Musa, where he was teaching devilishment and righteousness. Uh, he really is half original because remember, all those areas of Europe though are mixed peoples. So it's pretty much it's pretty much the proof is there. You know what I'm saying? Right. And by the way, this was my indigenous mourning day uh, craft because this hat, one of the gods gave it to me as a gift, and I put on this indigenous patch, Ralph Lauren patch on it, the nice chief on it. You can't see the silhouette of the chief there, but my man is right there. You know what I mean? Just a little another home sewn garment. You know what I mean? But it's good to do something to. I like to take the day and even this whole weekend and do fortify my knowledge of indigenous cultures and stuff. Universal 7 said, Sunnis, I put the VI11 for the internet. I started to run around other Universal 7 so I thought I'd make a little change. Sounds good. I'm just messing with you. Yeah, sounds good. All good. Got no problem with it. Indeed, etymology is powerful. You know, if you ever could get that hold of that on that Oxford Etymology Dictionary, hold on to it because I have tried to find a good etymology dictionary digitally, and I have not found something of the quality of that book that I have. And it is bothersome, all right. And indigenous people certainly are heroes, right? Yeah, skipping here. Moments, all things, right? Metaphysics is Aristotle. If yeah, metaphysics, yeah. hmm I don't have that book digitally, but that's because I have a physical copy of it. But I don't think that would be too hard to get a digital copy. There are um, I have a couple of books on the complete works of Aristotle just to have them, and they include metaphysics in it, and I have metaphysics as a PDF by itself. So it's not something that I would advocate you reading and stuff like that. You know what I mean? There are so many things to read ahead of that before you start going into Greek, you know, literature. You know? Let's see what else here. Malik said, "I remember my old Earth asking me about our universal flag. She said, "Is that a Muslim thing?" And I explained that she understood. It was a great moment. I don't try to do religious folk. And that's beautiful that your old Earth, understood. Peace now is born. All right. Uh, I've never heard that, Saladin. A Sufic Muslim that was the one who took the nose off the Sphinx. I don't remember the Sufic. Technically, the Sufic Muslims though didn't have power like that. I don't remember any order having any power to have military and stuff. Right? Oh, okay. Now it's born. Alexandria. The city of Alexandria is actually not in. It's not in Greece. Right? It basically is the libraries of Egypt, though, and they just renamed it. Yeah, and nobody is hiding it. It's just it's just completely appropriated. Look up Alexandria in the internet. To this day, it's still the second largest city in Egypt. I mean, they never renamed it. He went in there and took it, you know, and everything that was left there, he kept it. So that becomes that thing. You know what I mean? Let's see. Malik, I did send you an email about the 136. You should get it though. Let me see if I sent that. I thought I did. Oh shit. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I thought I did though, but I did not. Well, look at that. I've been sending a couple of people stuff about the 136, so I have like a perfectly prepared email, so I will send that to you. All right, so yeah, that way it's already prepared. So expect that email. I just sent it. Hey, absolutely, yeah. Real hip hop. Oh wait, okay. Real hip hop 216. So what happened after the end of the Pharaoh dynasty era? Uh, I'm trying to define this. I mean, there's no like. It's such a long history. It's not really like key moments and stuff. Unless we arbitrarily look at it though with like a insufficient lens. You know. Um, so it isn't like the end of the pharaohs. It's just that slowly but surely, this Egyptian mystery school system begins to not work, right? And what I mean by that is because the not only are uh, the idea of the Egyptian mystery school system was to collect and reignite the connection between all these original peoples and nations. What really happens is that on the back end of it, Europe is being empowered, obviously through Greece and their alternate intentions that mutate. into what becomes Rome and whatnot. You know what I mean? Right. But that's a good question, though. I don't know if anything pops out at me, or off the head I have like enough detail on that level in my head where I could pinpoint a particular thing. I don't like doing that. I think that one of the incorrect aspects of ancient Egyptian history is trying to define dynasties by one particular moment. I think that's insufficient. I mean, these aren't small blocks of time. These are massive amounts of time. So they aren't like specific things. You know what I mean? What's your source for that, Saladin? I never heard that. Never heard that. You know? Ah, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I never, it's funny. I never knew that. You know? I'm seeing this here. Yeah. Al Makrizi. Right? He's the historian that attributes the loss of the nose. It's not a logical. I don't know. I just don't. I don't know if I bear witness to that, though. You know? Yeah. I don't know if I bear witness to that. You know? It just goes against a lot of the Sufic history and the Sufic reality of most of their orders. So very intriguing. Very intriguing. It's documented and he's giving credit as that, but it's something that I definitely I don't 100% believe, because the reasonings doesn't make sense. A Sufi Muslim wouldn't worry about offerings, you know, and that's awkward as well, you know. Right? So it's interesting. It's interesting, you know, because I could see the Arab cultures doing that, um, but not a particular, not someone that was a really of the Sufic orders doing that, you know. It's intriguing. It's intriguing. You know, it's a piece of history that is there stated. But remember, it's only accepted because someone said it a long time ago and it never was refuted or supported, but it becomes the record, you know? So there's just a lot of more questions that I have that go along with that. You know what I mean? And remember that the European way was to also blow off the noses of all the other statues and monuments, you know? Right? And they weren't doing it just because the Sphinx was blown off, you know? Right? That's something that's really hard to prove, though, you know? Like, just think about it, you know what I'm saying? Think about it for a minute and how difficult it would be to actually prove that. You know, you were literally not dealing with something that you can really show and prove, you know? Because remember, he's giving credit as a Sufi Muslim. A Sufi Muslim, though, of the majority of the orders, though, wouldn't do that. And they never had that much power to do that. You get what I'm saying? What Sufic order had a Sufi Muslim with that much power that they could make some kind of show? Like, for example, Muhammad Saim al-Dar, a Sufi Muslim from the Kanak, I can't even say that word. The Kank, or ribbit, right, of Said al-Suada in AD 1378 and 1378. Okay, who found the local peasants making offerings to the Sphinx in the hope of increasing the harvest and therefore defaced the Sphinx in an act of iconoclasm. Do you realize that makes, technically, even if this is true, the one part that doesn't make sense is the Sufic part. This is 1378. This is nearing the still with the reign of, let's say, the Moors in Spain, the Sufic Muslims, and a lot of the Muslims wouldn't have been so obsessively religious, but more principle based. The Muslims that are dominating in Spain still are very scientifically based. They would have never done something so like low and tribal. Like it's something that this is a piece of history that I would definitely like, you know, definitely look into. Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. You know, and the Sphinx is even before all of that. You know, it's said to be before even the Egyptian dynasties that produce the pyramids, the Giza pyramid, all that. You know what I mean? Napoleon would have become attached to that because he makes more sense and because he was doing it with all the other things. Okay. And he had more motive, you know. Uh, it was the easiest way to try to Europeanize um, the ancient artifacts, right? So he's attached to it because he did it with the others, right? Yeah. If I was a historian, though, that would be something that I would question. You see? And so you don't have to say it's not true, but it's something that is very difficult to be plausible if you understand, you know? Because you'd also have to admit that there was a Sufic order that had that power, and the Sufic orders didn't move. They moved clandestinely, underground. They were not always advocated because they didn't advocate Islam as a religion of the mystery God. You know what I mean? So, um, I don't know. You know, interesting, interesting. You know, it's something I didn't know, so I'm at this. So it's something I immediately question. You know what I mean? Very interesting. Very interesting. And that's exactly what a historian, an archaeologist would engage with. You know, things like that. You don't have to bear witness to everything, but are there sound reasons why you disagree? Why it doesn't make sense? What are the missing elements to be explained here? What is not explained? See, this is the beginnings of scholarship, right? All right. Got what you meant, though. Got what you meant. Right? Self five peace, God. I think I sent you an email. Wisdom, equality, born, build, destroy. Through my personal experience, I realized the necessity to share those things, which bring harmony and balance and bring about positivity while removing what's useless. Very relevant on a day like today, right? Right? Very relevant. Those things, right? That's the right. Mm. Things is the wisdom, harmony and balance is the equality, right? And bring about positivity, right? The build while destroying, removing what's useless. Well said, well said, well said, well said. And one of the days it's difficult to do that. Right? One of the days it's difficult to do that. You know? All right. So while we're here, let me know if you have any questions about anything. I don't know if you read the last 5% column that I wrote, and I was trying to engage in an exercise to show you how the principles can be linked and how even when you build in the day's mathematics and stuff and have ideas about it and how it relates to you, it also continues to build up. So I called it knowledge to born to wisdom knowledge, and I built on how an idea can go from knowledge born through wisdom cipher to wisdom knowledge. You know what I mean? And just a little exercise in there. You know what I mean? So when you read these things, I expect I expect you to read these things, and if there is confusion, you let me know. You know what I mean? All right. What is going on with y'all? Let's look through my. Okay. So, how do you all see today's mathematics? Besides one of the gods with a strong build, sulfide build, everybody has gone lame on it. Nothing says the full circle of things like wisdom equality. It's expressed in the mathematics, but also expressed in the letters zigzag zig. You know what I mean? But the particular ways and actions that bring about equality, the particular ways and actions that emerge with the nature of equality, the intention of equality, the reality of equality, lead to change, lead to universal change, right? Some of the that big homework assignment about the calendar, the use of the calendar. Uh, I'm not going to explain it again, just as a note. So I'm thinking here, I'm not going to explain it again because um, it's kind of difficult to continue to explain it. It's a project for you all to work on personally, and I'm going to make a whole, like literal plus lesson presentation of the assignment. So when I write that, then you know what I mean. Quartis, great email you sent me. A lot of questions that I think are great for everyone. I don't want to answer your email in the class unless you allow it, but I didn't get the chance to write the response. But there's a lot of good stuff that you put in there. You know? But Gerald. All right. Today's math is wisdom equality, all being born to build through developing a steady system of balance. Direction is set for stability of strength and structure, mentalities, physicalities. Zigzag zig, knowledge, wisdom, understanding, borns a culture of freedom and justice, becoming all I see, all eyes see, animated through clarity, the truth in the square, adding truth in the square, equality. Okay. Quartis, you said wisdom, equality, born, build, destroy. I see it as the ability to respond or act on one's idea and align those efforts with growth. Ability to respond, react is wisdom. On one's idea, that idea would be the equality then. And align those efforts with growth. I am impressed. It's good work. Very, very definitely. Let's see. Okay, Quatis, I'll go through it. Anything that is like for me and you to build on, I'll just skip over it. If I see something I'd rather build with just you, and I'll just leave it there. But anything that the whole class could use, I'll go do it. Some Self-I built. Any recommendations for book writing? Any great books or resources I can look to? Oh, books on writing, you mean? Books on writing. You know, there's a couple. I will be honest with you. I don't read it. I don't read books on writing. Um, I don't study things about writing. I might read stuff from writers that I respect about writing, their thoughts on it, but very rarely. Um, Everything I get about writing is just studying all the literature that I read and the literature that I hear, right? Like hip hop, right? And it's a lot because obviously in my career, I've had the ability and the chance to pick the brain of geniuses that have created great works. And these MCs have written these works, you know what I mean? They've written these works. We forget that although they perform them, though, they are words, you know what I mean? Knowledge born said, wisdom, equality, the actions that I take through then accumulation of knowledge leads to the proper balance in life. Through accumulation of knowledge leads to the proper balance. Allow me to build and destroy, creating a right and exact reality for myself. I see it. I see it. Saladin said discernment, too, and balance is how you should engage. Really, really short, to the point, Saladin, but real good, too. Your word choices have gotten better. You know? Nice jizza like build. Half short, twice strong. Mm-hmm. Right. Question for you, Saladin. Why is wisdom discernment? Why would wisdom be discernment? KD Robbins 7. K Rob, right? K Rob. Peace. You're very welcome. This is every Thursday. Just happens to be it's you know. Yes, I did. I finished college. Right. I'm not sure what he was asking. You were asking if he was asking for books um, on book writing or things like that, or if you're looking for help in writing a book. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, the as far as book writing, obviously, that's part of my career is editing. So okay. All right, let me run through this email, Quatis. You had read my ego-based learning piece. Let me link that in there just so that way everybody could. kind of see it. By the way, as far as editing and stuff in the work I do, Starmail's The Righteous Way, the last Righteous Way book, the third in the trilogy, the Infinity Edition, is coming out soon. So I edit. I can edit. I edit books as well. So this column, ego-based learning, this is what a lot of Quati's really good questions came from. Let me throw that link in there just so that people could maybe pull it up on the side and stuff. If you read it, refresh yourself, you know. And I went through it in another class, Quatis, where I went through all of the. I tried to explain everything, all of the bullet points. But you had some good questions here that go beyond. Uh, Obviously, agreeing the arrogance. Okay. You said something I never thought about is what you mentioned in a particular article. The brown and yellow seeds were not made during the grafting process. It's a quote from me. Is that to say that the brown and yellow seeds had already been made? Was it more of a natural process? Migration to different areas with shorter periods of sun exposure, or perhaps mating with lighter skinned persons? I'm very shaky on this topic and it seems to reach the outer limits of understanding for me because it deals with the arrival of human beings on this planet. It begs the question of how many out of few came to be. Are we all just a product of incest? The answer to this question would undoubtedly be a part of the list of criteria of what it takes to be true living. Yes, it would. That's exactly what you would put on that list because it perplexes you. It's necessary to know. So if it's the list, being able to answer that question, that is, I've tried to complete that homework assignment, but it seems the question is hard to complete. The point of the assignment is to have questions that you can't complete, and to keep you going. It's kind of a recharge assignment. Some of these assignments, though, I'm not giving you traditional homework and stuff. This classroom experience will end for you, a lot of you, but you'll be in the classroom of life, for the rest of your days. So some of these assignments I give you, though, unfortunately, they'll be with you for the rest of your days too. But genetically, the brown and yellow was already inside the original man. So it always was going to be manifested naturally. Most of the shades that we see, the particular phenotypes, are because of migrations of original people from that origin of that Africa area, right? Let's just call it Africa to be simple. And they migrate, and they're there for generations, and their phenotype, the phenotypical details change, right? But not the originality. And so we get these different shades based on different, the different details. But these particular shades were in their diversity and always within the gene. In other words, you didn't have to alter or corrupt the original man to develop these other shades. That's the key, That's why it's important to know that in a degree it says the original man is what? The black and the brown. In the original man consists of what? The black and brown germ. Right? That's what that means. Okay, let's see this thing. Hold on a minute. My computer is getting a little slow here. Okay. right? So yeah, don't forget that, in the black man's body there exist two germs, right? The black and the brown. So the original man is made up of these two germs. In other words, all the genetic reality is in there, and that the making of the devil has to be an alteration, right? Thinning the original man's blood, right? Altering, separating the seeds, and then destroying the dominant seed in each and every generation, right? Also causing a mental reality, a new mental reality by the angel baby, the heaven idea, right? Which affects the mentality of things. And once you do that, you can continue this process, right? So let me see here off that. A couple of comments here. Wisdom is deciding how to move. Example, if I can't swim, then I shouldn't be in real deep water. Discernment is being able to choose. In other words, what knowledge to use, right, Saladin? Very key, very key. You need to write about that. That's good stuff. Real hip hop. I always try to support all the gods and the true living gods by getting their books as well as supporting musicians. Yeah, that's peace. Definitely. K Rob said peace around. I met Star Mellon, got his first book, The Righteous Way. He's great. Definitely get it. He signed the book and dedicated it to me. Didn't know he had a second and third version about the job. The second version has been out. So you got The Righteous Way, the one you have, The Righteous Way Jubilee Edition, right? 50th anniversary. That's the second one. And then coming soon is the third of the trilogy, the last one, the Infinity Edition of The Righteous Way. So, and I think Starmel did his best writing on that Infinity Edition. 793rd said, those experience ways and actions, thoughts which influence balance and how I do as well as how I balance all within my reality. Its usefulness to determine how careful I draw up knowledge from good and bad equality. Malik said, discern your equality maintains balance because you can build or destroy. In these days and times, you have used knowledge at times, wisdom, in addition to understanding the zigzag. I see it. All right. Quatis, we continued with more insights. I also found this to be intriguing. And he quotes my article, says, I said, the more you learn about the student, the easier you can share. Teaching, a calculated, sincere sharing of information and its tools of learning in the most honorable manner. It's such a simple thing, quite elementary, in fact, but the execution is some very heavy lifting. A full-scale study of many different subjects is involved in developing the skill. I can appreciate it because one, it is understanding culture used powerfully, right? 3, 4, 5. And secondly, because it is something I work on. All right. In daily life, I come across many people who see it differently than I, even in my own household, because when I see life diametrically different. Interesting. All right. All right. I'm skipping some stuff here. All right. All right. I see what you're saying here. So, I think this Quantis, right? The actual fact is that the woman is the hardest person to teach because they're the only grown person that you strive to share the things that you actually know. And they would have been the people that spent the longest time possibly living without that knowledge, consistently alive, and maybe even thriving, right? Because you wouldn't have dealt with them with incorrect information and beliefs. How do you deconstruct that? It's a lot of work. You know what I mean? And sometimes you can do it for a certain amount of years, though, and then it just crumbles to pieces anyway. And that was my positivity moment of the night. Okay. I won't say about you with the name and stuff like that. I'm going to give you an email to you personally, but Yeah, I'd love to see the reasonings why you chose that. That word in front of warrior. Very interesting. Very interesting. You explained it here. Have well-rounded. Okay. Interesting. Man, these students surprise me all the time with ideas. I'm gonna skip that paragraph about your name and stuff. These two, maybe three paragraphs, because that's something I want to give you a detail. You know what I mean? But it seems like you're in the right direction because you're defining the principles of you mathematically, and even if you have a particular word that is unique and not really ever used, um, if you can find some way to put that in there, maybe in a translation, something like that, something that holds more, it'd be interesting. Very interesting. I'm intrigued. Yep, just with the pyroclastic flow, right? I don't know how many people read all of the works I have though, but this concept of writing extremely concentrated prose where they're very detailed, very poetic, an obsession over the particular word choice over others that are simpler. Um, that definitely is something that I'm very influenced by Jizza with that. You know, one of the legends. Well, as you said, today's math is wisdom, equality, born, build, to destroy. The ability to show your power and take anything in life and see its usefulness and prove the part you add on, and what part you should take away. Be very careful. Nothing's wrong, but you muddle it by using the word power in it. When you build on day's math, you don't want to link principles of the other degrees. Just it muddles. That's peace Quatis. I'll email. Definitely gonna have to email you because the ideas about your name is still a personal thing for you, and some of the other stuff that you were saying, and I want to add on with you personally about that. So definitely. Malik said to discern his judge, how you use wisdom, rain, i.e., rain, be soft with your words. At times, hail, you got to raise your voice or yell or snow, whisper. True, true, true. All right. All right. That's peace, God. All right. Indeed, indeed. Definitely indeed. Sometimes too, in the way that if wisdom equality also zig also means that in your ways of act, all of your ways and actions, whether you like them or not, whether you think that they are you know are complete or not, they are going to give a full spectrum to all that experience it. Your ways and actions, though, are going to bring about some type of equality. They're going to give out a full spectrum. Zigzag zig. It's a full spectrum. And something's going to be destroyed or something's going to be built. Sometimes we have to look at these mathematics with a finality to them too, that the effects of what you do, you know? And when we talk about wisdom, the use of knowledge, right? The application of knowledge, right? All of the application of knowledge, right? Leads to a full spectrum of its impacts, right? Something is going to happen. Something is going to happen. You either will build or destroy with it, you know. And when you link up that zigzag zig, it's really that is the full spectrum of it. You know what I mean? A wisdom that is filled with equality, right? And when we look at the wisdom cipher days, when we look at the wisdom cipher days, right? We're looking at the idea that knowledge has developed itself fully in the spectrum of these days that we plan. And then what happens though? Then the wisdom cipher days, right? How has wisdom developed? And when wisdom reaches what? The wisdom cipher reaches what? Wisdom equality, right? What does it mean to have a way that is balanced, right? It means that everyone is in a position, the ways and actions that you have are in a position to what? To affect change, right? It's really the position that we all want to be in because it takes things full spectrum. That's why zigzag zig is so important. It's that 26th letter, right? Self-I Build said in the Wisdom Build degree, he made those marry who were not good at multiplying before the birth control law. Wouldn't not multiplying intentionally be a form of birth control? Those who marry were not good at multiplying, right? Uh Elijah, and his bad grammar. You know what I mean? In this case, the goal is to make children, right? So that's why it's not really part. It's not really part of that. You know what I mean? The point is that how he was in igniting the system. The system works by ignition, by activation, as opposed to not doing. You know what I mean? Because if you think of it, is it really, it's not really a birth control law. You know what I'm saying? It's a birth creation system. Sounds crazy what I just said though, but it's really a particular mating system. So it's not really birth control that's happening. You know what I mean? Right? It's basically it's basically supporting the births of a particular type of people, right? Via the separation and ultimate genocide of particular shades to give the greatest, and the thinning of the original is bad, man, blood, and other rules and regulations not mentioned in that lesson to activate that, to lead to that. You know what I mean? So it's not really like, you can't think of it like a birth control law. You know what I'm saying? You know, they're not really controlling birth as far as like reducing the number. They're promoting actually something that needs to be put forth. You know what I mean? So actually more mating would be necessary. You know, massive mating. You know what I mean? And that's why the separation of the seeds after is very crucial. You know, I don't know if that answers the question though. That's always been a complex part of the degree because it's so grammatically flawed. You know what I mean? Like, right? So the first sentence is, you know, they're healthy, strong, good breeders, right? That's what he's looking for, right? He's checking to see. So this is about an active process, right? They're not about controlling, stunting, funneling. No, it's about, we need lots of breeders, right? Think about that for a minute. You need lots of breeders. So we're basically gonna make humans in bulk, and then we're gonna sift out, then we're gonna sift through them. Separate, dilute, separate, dilute, separate, dilute, other rules and regulations, attack the seed mentally, physically, dilute, and then separate the strongest, separate the strongest. That's what that symbolizes, really. In a lot of ways, though, the black, brown, the shades are being taken to just think about the shades. It's really about separating the strongest and exiling the strongest. You know what I mean? We know we can't even say technically the destruction of a lot of the lighter shades that were strong would have made sense too. See? Because it's about making a weak and wicked individual. Someone that was so weak that they were prone to wickedness. So it was about making a weaker human. Sounds crazy. You know what I mean? But this is a technically a reverse eugenics, because eugenics is, all eugenics in this case would be negative, wrong, ethically wrong. But the positive eugenics would be about, in this case, what I'm saying, trying to make a better individual. In this case, was trying to make a weaker individual. You know what I mean? So if you weren't a breeder, though, you can't really be in the equation. You know what I mean? Right. Then the degree gets awkward. It's not good at multiplying. They would marry at the age of 16. 16 is a very young age. So probably, I've always taken that to mean that they have a mate as soon as they are of mating age. Because if they're not good at multiplying, they won't be of use that long. Right. And if they are not good at multiplying, the type of seeds that they would produce just might be the type of weaker seed that they are looking for. See? So it's really weird, right? You need a lot of breeding, so you need strong breeders. But at the same time, though, you have to do what you can to promote and help the weaker seed actually fulfill something. Because what are you doing? You're making, right? These laws were enforced to what? Manufacture the what? The devil. Right? Devil is what? Weak and wicked. You cannot manufacture something wicked. Wicked has to be, you don't know what their actions will be. You have to do something wicked to be wicked. So you don't know anybody, any child's actions or any person's actions, until they're born and grow. But you can't promote. So the only thing it could really promote is weakness, right? They can only promote weakness. I hope that makes sense. And it's crazy because it becomes very contradictory, very hypocritical. But the whole idea that there are problems of separation within the original man's mind that Yakub decided to extract and funnel into a short amount of years, because 6,000 out of 26,000 years of a Quran is a real concentration of a really, really big problem. And to do that, you have to be, first of all, you gotta be on some next shit though. I mean, Yakub, what a superstar. You know what I mean? What a superstar. What daring. You know what I mean? If we could allow it, though, I'd get me a Yakub throwback jersey. You know what I mean? Give me a 666 Yakub jersey. You know what I mean? Like, the man was a genius, though. He said, we got some sick shit in us. Let me see if I can do that old method. You got bitten by a mental snake. Let's see if we could bite you and extract that juice. But that juice became something. You know what I mean? It might become something and you have to deal with it, though. But take it out of you and put it out there and you could deal with that. Right? That is not an uncommon strategy for dealing with problems. That's the entire Hindu foundation. Making statues that represent the obstacles and the difficulties that you are having to deal with. Right? So salute that man, Yakub. You know what I mean? Salute that man. Who knows how long we'd be fighting each other and killing each other if we didn't make that white man to put that shit down. You know what I mean? Put it down so bad we start realizing, you know what I mean? What is it we're doing? Right? I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm saying that's what he did. You know? No, he's moralizing about it. Shit happened. He did it. To do that, though, you couldn't be thinking about the moral reality of it, though. You know what I mean? Good question, Quetzis. What would be the reason to create a weaker man? Was it a scene, something that would eventually occur, meant to speed up that process? And would it have been known what type of human activity would happen? It's exactly that. To show and prove that Allah is the God. Right? Isn't everything that the creator creates creation? All creation is to show and prove that Allah is the God. Because a creator isn't a creator if he doesn't create. And so we create. That is the way. Right? Not to get Mandalorian on you all, but that's the way. Okay? If you take the mentality that was becoming destructive, and the more we study ancient history, it was, Quatis, then Yakub's mentality was to extract that into an individual who would rule for a certain amount of years to do what? To show and prove the absolute destruction and how it must be dealt with. That's why in the degrees we don't destroy the devil. We destroy the devil's civilization. All of the products of that mentality. You know what I mean? And that's what civilization is, the products of your mentality. The products of the mentality of the mind in engaging each other. All minds engaging produce what? Civilization. right? You run self-I build, you run Yakub over if he crosses the street, they won't know why you build. You know what I mean? They'll only know about destruction. Yours. Then you'll be Yakub. Somebody's gonna be Yakub. Somebody was gonna be him. Right? Quatis, good question. What is the reason for wickedness? Well, the science of the wickedness is that if you make a weaker individual, he cannot survive consistently on his own merits. So the only way to actually have control over that is to what? Subjugate the rest of the planet. So he cannot survive naturally, so he cannot thrive. So then what happens is that the only way for him to thrive is to make sure that the rest of the world is lowered to his level. See? And then to really thrive, to make sure that they are below his level. The only way to do that, though, is to rob them of what? Well, the answer after all these years was the resources, mental, physical, the land, right? All of these things, right? Why do you think capitalism is the prevailing doctrine? Money. It's about collecting capital, resources, and then putting a value on those resources, which make it more difficult for others to have, right? It's a lot of work to be done. You don't have a Yakub, doesn't mean that the work isn't there. You know, it doesn't mean that the devilishment is not there. So that's an excellent philosophical assignment, by the way. All of you, especially if you're in the 1 to 40. If you can't find, if you can't see that this is what had to be, then what would you do to deal with the situations of our own separation? Right? What would you do? Because obviously, the fact that Yakub had to make devil, some holding hands though wasn't gonna do that shit, right? Mm-hmm. So if we build that time machine though. I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna take you in it because if you got them thoughts of killing Yakub, man, come back over here and shit. Man, could be fucking Planet of the Apes and shit. You know what I mean? Right? Fuck knows, right? You think that all of this happened just because a certain individuals were made? Those individuals had no power. They had to say certain things and they had to convince certain things out of people. We did our own devilishment. We listened to them when they spoke. You know? When they said that they were greater and that we could be like that. And so we go into the process of lightening, marrying out. We listened to that. You know what I'm saying? So we was already dealing with what? What's the roots of that? It's not just separation of the original man, but the quest, the wrong quest for mystery. Something outside of ourselves will be greater than what we have. See? And if you could build any type of utopia, they will all be destroyed by the same process. Any supposed utopia will be toppled by the concept of someone else can give us something greater that is not us. See? And that's a big difference from the value, the let's say the perfect utopia, and it's working, because that is far different than the young that would challenge and consistently challenge in disagreement, in not being, in refusing and being unsatisfied with just going along with the status quo, no matter how correct it is. Because the challenging of traditions is what allows daring and innovation to happen, that actually could grow the value of the tradition, if the tradition then now is tested and is worthy. It's far different than that. You see, for them to be made and then convince us to go outside of ourselves, right, means that we were looking for something outside of ourselves. We were no longer looking amongst each other, but outside of ourselves. And this was causing a separation. Why? Because different people were coming up with different reasons of who will cause what, right? We talk about the Egyptian dynasties, though, right? What happens in the Egyptian dynasties? They start to think of and solidify themselves by the concepts of different gods. And then they have to shrink it down and say monotheism and just one God and just this. And then we see the succession of religions. And every single prophet is trying to get rid of more religion, because every single religion keeps spreading out into the belief of many gods. Even this Christianity that people talk about is many gods, right? It's a God up there. It's a God Jesus. It's about, right? All the gods that fit the print, right? You got, it's a mystery. But if you need to visualize it, though, you visualize your man Jesus, right? If you like it to be abstract in all concepts, or if you want to deal with some thing that's abstract but all everywhere around you, you got your ghost shit. You got it all the way outside in space. You got your ghost shit around here. Then you got your man though. You got Jesus Christ though. You know what I'm saying? Where you know all men can homoerotically pray to some fucking dude. And all women can respect the man more than their own, right? And Malik, yes. And that's why sometimes you get more out of the lessons when you take note of the grammar is not always going to be perfect, right? Because sometimes with the grammar being bad, one could try to justify every single part, and that's going to become difficult because he just made some grammatical errors and shit. You know what I mean? And then now instead of trying to like get understanding, you're doing explaining. You're explaining shit. It's not what you always get wrong when you try to explain things. New Yakub is termination. DeLorean. Yeah. I don't know. You know what I mean? I'm like the Puerto Rock Seinfeld on steroids. Oh man, that's funny. You know what I mean? That's too funny. Oh man. But you look at things from a different angle, you know what I'm saying? Possibilities, right? God is a woman. All right. K-Rob, how you see today's math with the build degree in the 1 to 10? How much of this useful land is used by the colored man? Answer: 6 million square miles. All right. When build in 1 to 14 says that will keep our people apart from their social equality. Okay. Okay, you're kind of leading me into a build, right? Mentioned in the 1 to 14, but or are you seeing some kind of like discrepancy, like you don't see how it connects, or you see the build degree in the 1 to 14 about the devil keeping his own social equality, keeping us away from seeing this social equality? Does that go against the build degree? Yeah, I'm just messing with you, K Rob. Trying to figure out what your question is though. Yeah, because like if people mention 2 degrees, I could say all type of shit to fit them together. You know what I'm saying? Um, that's why I'm asking if you have a feeling that they contradict each other or they don't blend together. Like, I want to know your question before I start going, oh, these fit. I could say a whole bunch of stuff to fit them and stuff because they're interchangeable in many ways. But if you're seeing a discrepancy or something that doesn't make sense, that they contradict each other, is what I thought is what I was reading there. Then let me know. The God as a woman talk comes about a lot from besides women talking shit, right? And not really proving anything, just say it, like you know you know when we say man is like the sun and woman is like the earth, it's kind of the same. Like, people don't be looking up at the sun and going, yo, the sun is doing mad shit though, like crazy though. See that ray of light though? See that? Like nobody's gazing at the fucking sun, you know what I mean? But they're enjoying the sunshine, they're enjoying everything about the sun, all of the things that it ignites, right? But all of the fruit is coming out of the earth of what the sun does, you know? So women do the same thing, and scientists will do anything to negate take away from the idea that the black man is God. So they'll even write that the Y chromosome is like some aberration. You know what I mean? Right. So K-Rob, give me some details. Do you want me? If you want to see my build on the 8th degree in the 1 to 10, or are you trying to see how the 8th degree in the 1 to 10 and the 8th degree in the 1 to 14 link up? I'm not sure what you're asking me. You know what I mean? I don't want to answer a question without knowing exactly what you're asking me to do. Right? Oh, Karis one says a lot of things. You know what I mean? As far as the spirituality, you know what I mean? Okay. It's pretty much natural sugars though, Malik. Amazing Greens doesn't have any sugar. You know what I mean? And it could be also your mental because you know stevia is inside those, and stevia is a plant, but it mimics sugar, so it can make you feel like you're drinking something sweeter. You know, especially if you never had stevia like that. You know? Peace, God, infinite mind. Yeah. I plan on going there soon. You know, but with all this with the schools being shut down and stuff, I followed suit. Um, just for the last this class since last week, because last week was the first in months that I was already going to school in months. You could see the background. In these classes, though, it was only till last week I said that let me just do it here. You know what I mean? But I'm taking it week by week. You know what I'm saying? So I don't give definitive answers and stuff. Okay, let me go back a little bit. Okay. All right. All right. 793rd said, okay, you tell yourself I build. Okay, okay. All right. Okay, Rob, you said, okay, I see what you're saying. How I see it is that the devil was roped into Europe, okay, the Caucasus region, and he lived a savage life. He was filthy and didn't want us to see how filthy he was. Yeah, indeed, yeah. That's not, yeah. We deal in equality sharing, but the devil doesn't. We once did. We have not. See? We have not. All right, Malik, that's peace. That's peace, Malik. Kwati said, from what you were just saying, second question because it pushes skill level of people further. Well, it doesn't do that. It just makes you think that you're doing that, you know? Because what is produced is valued and drives innovation based on. Okay, I'm waiting for the rest of that. That's not what capitalism does, though. You know, that's not what capitalism does. You know, that's what slaves have to do to survive in capitalism, but that's not what capitalism does. You know what I mean? I think Noam Chomsky said it best, though. Capitalism is filled with planned economies, the economies that can be free to challenge each other because they'll always be subsidized and they'll always be important, but everyone else is left on their own. So it doesn't value systems. Yeah, and socialism creates laziness, though. That's yeah, Quartis, that's really not true. You know what I mean? It's really not true. The truth is this: most socialism hasn't created laziness, though. It just created a different type of oppression because the central, it ended up being really central governments controlling stuff. You know what I mean? Um, what you're thinking about capitalism is not really about competition. Capitalism is about controlling the assets and the means of production. Okay, and it also means inflicting the worker to be engaged with that, and so they have to be engaged with work using your means of production, right? Developing and extracting capital for your use, right? All the while that you are not able to liberate yourself, because then that would change the owners of the means of production. Socialism is essentially something that has not been put into practice very well, that starts out centralized, but is meant to actually extend the idea that people will work based on their value. See, the problem, Quatis, with what you're saying, though, is that people have to be, is that you're going by the, philosophically, you're also saying that people are have to be motivated to create. right? They have to be motivated to do the things to live, and that hasn't been the case. That's not really true. You know what I mean? Slaves didn't make pyramids though. Imhotep didn't get a good cash out when he made the the Giza pyramid and only the step pyramid. You know what I mean? Like, that's not really how it works. You know what I mean? Now these systems like communism, it does produce dictatorships, right? But in the history of the modern world, it's actually capitalist governments that have supported the most dictatorships. So go figure, right? So it's important. Some good books to read about capitalism, socialism, all of these things, right? Um, the truth is that a society, um, you can't build a society that is righteous, though, if you don't have confidence in the righteousness of the people. And no system of economies can force a righteousness of a people by productivity. You know what I mean? That's Peace Infinite, man. I'll take note of that date. Take note of that date. I should be able to. It should be. I think everything should be relaxed a little bit, where it could be easy to go there. You know what I mean? And not be a problem for people and everything like that. And by the way, like for example, in Cuba, um, those ideas of laziness though are really something that are really false constructs. You know what I mean? They're really false constructs. The laziness would be produced by people that don't see a possibility in getting all of the riches that they would never be able to get. In capitalism, you're led to believe that you will get that, even though usually, nearly all the time, don't. However, and everyone that does are really anomalies, right? Whereas in in socialism, the idea is that everyone though will have a chance to work and be demanded to work. So those ideas are cliches. You know what I mean? Cliches. The truth is that a perfect society though is still something to experiment with, and unfortunately, those socialist systems, um, our original people haven't had much opportunity to experiment again with social systems to produce one that isn't based on exploitation. But don't get it twisted though. This concept of free market, that is not really capitalism. That is not what capitalism is about. That is a justification for capitalism. But there's no such history of free markets in capitalism. Because what happens is that everything would be left to their own means, right? And that has never happened. You know what I mean? Never happened, right? In other words, uh, we're not going to do anything though. McDonald's is going to do its own thing. That never happens. They're subsidized all the time. They fail all the time. You know what I mean? And the support that keeps capitalism going is because of the collection of the capital. That's what it is, the collection of the capital and the damming of the capital, right? A dam of the capital. So you have the capital, you have all these goods, and then you have all these goods, and then you what? You dam them up, you keep them here. And now, because they are dammed up, you can value them. This is worth so much, this is worth so much, and no one will have access to it except for the very few, right? That's capitalism. You know what I mean? And yes, there are original people that will fight tooth and nail and have to use genius just to survive minimally. You see? But for every genius that keeps himself alive well or barely through genius, the vast majority suffer and wither away without the opportunity to work. Right? Okay, Rob, capitalism is pimps and hoes. Someone is exploiting someone else. Yeah, unfortunately. Yep. Okay, Rob, yeah, definitely. Small percentage at the top. 5% controls 95% of the wealth. That is very, very true. Right? Yeah, that's crazy, right? You know what I mean? And it does because in socialism, the theory is that like, listen, okay, we're gonna distribute this all equally, but then people can't be trusted. People have long, long goals, and they don't have the confidence in the people. Um, they have no way of fostering the growth. See, the theory, I would say probably because you can't deal with Stalin and we can't deal with Leninism. Those are white folk trying to come up with the societies though. They're already weak, so they were very prone to wickedness. Fidel is probably the best example, especially being from the modern era and having to engage against capitalism. It's very important, right? His whole theory and concept was the more that the people would be educated, they would be able to make the decisions to promote their own humanity, right? Unfortunately, he lost the war in this sense in many ways because so many of people were out propagandized, and really a lot of Fidel's way of engaging the people really became outdated. You know what I mean? um no one's gonna sit there and hear like 10-hour lectures and shit. You know what I mean? But the idea of promoting education also fell victim to what the Taoists say. The more educated that the Cubans became, the more clever they became. In other words, desiring the things that ought to fit their intelligence now. In other words, they took a look at Pitbull. I blame it all on Pitbull. Pitbull is symbolic of all that is evil in the world. You know what I mean? It's a fact. Think about it for a minute, though. You know what I mean? Bad music, corny vibe. You know what I mean? So everything's there. Everything's there. Everything that you need to abhor. That's right. Today's Sesame Street word is in the reality of Pitbull, the roots of Pitbull. You know what I mean? He even named himself after a dog. It's crazy. But right. Yeah, Quatis, I'll send you some books. Though, you know what I mean? I think one of the greatest thinkers about capitalism and systems, to me, in the Western world and stuff, is probably Noam Chomsky. You know what I mean? Um, who, by the way, is an anarchist, and not in the cliche definition of anarchism, destroy all governments, but to deal with a revolution that gets rid of all of these corrupt governments, corrupt systems of capitalism, corrupt versions of socialism, and build something that actually empowers the worker and makes a more daring democracy where all the people can engage in the things that they need. You know what I mean? And that sounds so theoretical that it's called that anarchists get anarchism would get a bad name. You know what I mean? But one of the things I always agree with Chomsky is that he says something very similar to what we deal with, and certainly with what I've been teaching all these years. And I only recognized this recently in a book of his I was reading, that we are in aligned with that. The type of government society doesn't need to be defined particularly. What needs to be promoted are the principles by which whatever society is will be run. Once you have this, and the principles we talked about is supreme mathematics. So once those principles are defined, everything else comes into play. You know what I mean? Right? Right. And that the people would always have literally a culture of freedom, a culture that would actually express their freedom. You know what I mean? Malik, the point was not to bother yourself with Pitbull. Okay, you could just watch television for a while and see one of these bad commercials for like some shitty, you know, what is it, phone company, and see him dancing like a damn fool. But self-I build. So you think too much education according to the Tao is eventually a negative. The gods that promote education would have the same effect. Never leave more 85s learn. Yeah, it's not so much the education. It's see the Tao. People confuse the Tao. The Tao isn't. It's the translations into English that they don't translate well into English. So the Tao is not really trying to say that the people need to remain ignorant, like the way we're thinking, like no knowledge or no access to knowledge. It's the idea of the again we go back to the word the palate. The Tao has a one of its aphorisms talks about the senses, and that the senses, the more that they are engaged, the more they can become diluted. And this goes with the Taoist principle of you have to recognize when you reach a certain level of yang extremities, and then go back to yin. So the Taoist way is to always realize when you've gone to those extremes and not to drain yourself. And that's what happens with the palate. When people do the knowledge to all of these other things, all of these other ways of life, all of these amenities, all of these things that aren't necessary, that they could overwhelm the palate though and lead to what? So that's what it was. So in the modern world, we couldn't, and that's what something that Fidel really made a mistake with. Like he really thought he could hide the modern world from people. You can't do that. You know what I mean? Oh, thank you, Malik. Yeah. Oh, jeez. Yeah. It's got no time for that. It's too much good stuff out there. You know what I mean? My man Infinite Mind is about to be on some songs out there in Aguilar's new album. So that's what I'm looking forward to hear. That's what you need to go check. You know what I mean? But the idea is what type of education can promote a people to value uh, a righteous way of life, as opposed even while they see the corruptness of things or the excess of things or greater wealth. You know what I mean? And that's really the goal, of the righteous society. You know what I mean? How can people be happy? Because when we look at capitalism, we understand that no matter what, to have a society where all men have the can engage in goodwill and have a lifestyle that is productive and can be fruitful, all of humanity, the excesses that we see cannot happen. You know what I mean? And because of the way of the world, some of the things that we, even who are suffering, have excesses that the rest of the world is not even close to receiving. You know? So the system of capitalism causes massive imbalance. You know what I mean? Massive imbalance. The key is, what are the principles so you don't go astray? And then how do you define the principles and say, these are my principles, and I'm not just blindly following what ought to be principles? And that's why we deal with mathematics. One of the gods sent me a very good list of criteria, but he kept it social. Didn't keep it to the sciences, which is where I really want everybody to go with the criteria of what makes Allah Allah, right? What makes a true and living God? What is the criteria that makes God God? I want you to have sciences that you answer to, right? a lot of you see it socially as like a righteous man, sincere man, this and and all these things are correct too. But in that assignment, I said, listen, take these attributes, sincerity, humility, all these things, and try to define them mathematically. What is the mathematics for sincerity? What numbers would you give that? You know what I mean? Right? It could be anything. You know what I'm saying? Right? But this is really the key. You know what I mean? Hey, that's peace, Malik, right? That's peace. Yeah. Yeah. Well, 793rd, I don't have a problem if people like have fun with certain things. You know what I'm saying? And I don't look down on it because I can get all the music I want. You know what I'm saying? I can get all the books I want, and I don't spend money. A lot of that is because I know how to go get them, and a lot of it is because of what I do. I get a lot of great music given to me, so it all works out. But a lot of this is just for, you know, I wrapped a career around what I love. But what if I didn't? You know what I mean? I still would enjoy those things, and I still would spend massive amounts of money on them if I couldn't get them. So I don't get mad about people having a thing that they need to have, like if that's what they want, the PS5 or something like that. You know, I just would hope that people really could afford the joys that they partake in. And that's really a problem. It's not really a problem about getting a PS5. It's people are getting them and they can't actually afford it, right? So, right, that would be the key. Although like for myself, though, I suck at video games. I've never been into them at all. So, right. But we all have things that we engage in that take massive amounts of time too. I was making this playlist and I was missing some albums. I had to go get it. I was obsessive about it, and it became a great playlist. And I realized it took me a whole hour to fix that. You know what I mean? You know, absolutely. You know what I mean? But when the people have no, if the people don't expect to always be able to work for what they need, why would they care anymore? You see? They would just go for the wants. See? If people aren't led to respect their needs, their own needs, and value their life, why would they worry about their needs? They would just switch to an immediate want while they're here in this hell. See? So it's got a longer process to deal with, as opposed to, dealing with that. You know what I mean? Right? Yeah. Infinite Mind is on this thing here, right? One of the great MCs. Right? Are you guys kidding me? What mathematical degree is sincerity? What is sincerity, though? See, now you have to say, and sincerity is the willingness to what? Right? Express yourself truly, right? Definitions of sincerity usually what it doesn't have, right? Being free of pretense, deceit, hypocrisy, right? So being able to express yourself authentically, you know what I'm saying? Right? So if we looked at expression as what? Culture, right? We might have in our head, though, that the culture of God, you know what I mean? Right? The culture of God, right? Yeah. Peace self I built. Yeah, a lot of people have been asking me to channel that on records, you know what I mean? And I got a lot of records coming, you know what I mean? A lot of people have been pestering me to be an artist, you know, and I'm not a typical MC. I love doing the poetry and stuff like that. So, but I'm on a lot. I'll be on a lot of songs with a lot of great MCs. I'm a lot of songs coming out soon with some great MCs that I'm on with. You know what I mean? Doing what I do. You know? Yeah. But definitely salute Aguilar and Sadat X, man, for asking for that. You know? Right. So sincerity, expression, right? Expression of what? What you ought to be, right? Free of pretense, deceit, right? Then it's truly God, right? Maybe we could say that's the degree. You see, in your head, you have that degree, the culture of God, right? And it all beings born's what? Wisdom, right? The way. All of these principles can be defined, you know what I mean? Right? What is humility but a true knowledging of self, right? Maybe you just say 17, knowledging God, you know what I mean? Or knowledging one's equality, you know what I mean? Right? So you have to start thinking mathematically because that's how you encode things and then they get lived out. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. And that's point in my career. I'm expressing this year coming, I'll be basically, let's just say that I'll be expressing myself in all forms of media, you know, nearly all forms of media, anything you could think of. You know what I mean? Yeah, pretty all in a lot of stuff I've done, but like all at one shot. You know what I mean? Like you'll see you'll see books, you'll see um, newspapers, um, songs, my own songs, um, obviously my shows, my podcasts and stuff. So it's a lot of multimedia from, you know, just putting it out there, all angles, you know what I mean? And that's why I always want you all to study about expressing yourself in all means, you know what I'm saying? Always, all ways, you know what I mean? Try everything, you know what I mean? Because you don't have to be good at everything, but everything will do what? Extend your palate. You know what I mean? Now I talk about the destruction of the palate. You also have to be able to engage the palate. So, you know, once you protected your palate, then you engage the palate. You know what I mean? It's what you experiment with, you know, and all forms, you know what I mean? All forms, you know. And some of these forms are some that I thought I shouldn't be in, you know what I mean? And a lot of people thought otherwise. And I tried it, you know what I mean? I tried it. And aside from, I think it sounds okay, let's say like the music and stuff, I'm just having fun with it, and it's helping me express myself in different ways. So that's fun, you know. And, yeah, but a lot of things, you know what I mean? a lot of things. So definitely engage in that, you know what I mean? And that's an assignment too, you know what I mean? Like to look at the principles you have and see how you define them mathematically. What are the principles that I am about? You know? All right. So a lot of good questions. We're pretty much at the end of this class session. Um, if anybody, wants to contact me, those of you who have my number and everything, text me and stuff like that. Again, I'm still doing this at home. Most likely in the next 2 weeks, I'll get my way back up at the school. But most likely, at least one more week, I'll probably be here. If everything's okay, December 10th, I should be out there. But until then, email me, contact me, develop your questions. You know what I mean? And actually spend time. Developing things. You know what I'm saying? Developing. You know, try new things. You know what I'm saying? That you weren't in. You know what I mean? Right? So yeah, Infinite Mind. They didn't know who you were. They was like, "Who's Infinite Mind? Who is that rapper nigga, Infinite Mind?" Like, I had to share the link and everything. You know what I'm saying? So like do all that. You know what I'm saying? And since we're doing the Thanksgiving thing, learn a little bit indigenous history and stuff like that. Learn the history of the original peoples and stuff. If you want some books about indigenous history and stuff, I got a lot of books. A lot of great stuff. So let me know. You know what I mean? So with that said, we're pretty much at this 10 o'clock hour. You know what I mean? I hope you all didn't stuff yourselves savagely and have total itis and got nothing of what I just said. Then you go rewind and stuff. You know what I mean? But until next week, stay tuned. Usually Saturday or Sunday, I'll throw up that Peace Course column for this session. And if you email me, look out for that email and stuff like that back. Right? If you didn't email me, email me. What the hell are we waiting for? You know what I mean? You got to interact. Yeah. But yeah, Infinite Mind is not just the greatest Cuban MC though. That's a small, sample size. You know what I mean? You need a bigger sample size. You know what I mean? To really judge his talents. But on that note, peace to everybody. Stay strong, build strong, and don't just destroy the devil though. Build the true and living God. Peace.